my director was like, Quinn, would you be comfortable if you had a leash on?
Right out the gate.
And
Right out the
I was
gate,
like,
babe.
yeah. And he was like, okay, I think I might have you in a leash, and Sean might be leading you around.
And you were like, perfect.
And I was like, I'll do it.
Manic
Pixie.
Jump Scare. Hosted by Quinn Murphy
And Becca Hobart.
Hi, we're Quinn and we're
Oh,
Becca. And passions and love for each other.
Oh, sorry.
Interesting. Very artistic, Quinn.
Yes, yes. I try. I
Yeah.
try sometimes for
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah. I pictured myself in a gray turtleneck while we were doing that. So already I'm getting visions already.
I
And
pictured
that is,
myself as a constellation.
ooh, beautiful. Well, guys, you may be wondering, whoa, 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 that's so psychedelic right off the bat. But listen, this topic today, yeah, it has something to do with that
Hmm.
because today Quinn and I are putting on our goggles
Hmm.
and our water tanks to
Yeah,
dive
looks like I'm going
into
for a swim.
Dunked on him swimming off the rim. Okay, but so we're diving into actually the Grand Canyon and we're bringing the water, but it's gonna be deep, so don't
It's
worry.
giving Avatar the way of.
The way of. I heard that too. Except we're not blue.
Baby Rexa,
Anywho.
I'm blue. I will leave.
BB Rex, I'm blue. Anywho, time to jump in to episode 2
Yeah,
of
it definitely
today. Of
is.
today. Yeah, it's right. Um of the day. And so we are stainless deep diving the vocal viewpoints. The
Mhm.
viewpoints, parentheses, vocal.
Yeah,
Um,
special emphasis on vocal.
yeah, exactly. So obviously we must start with Quinn. Where the hell did you first encounter the viewpoints, vocal viewpoints? What's your relationship to it? Catch me up on a little bit of your relationship to that.
I want to say I did some type of viewpoints type exercise in high school.
Mm.
Um, because my high school theater director was at NYU in like the 90s, so I'm sure like,
Mm.
he did a lot of work with Liz Swados. I wonder what her who's kind of like this legendary New York theater person, Tony
Mm-hmm.
winner. And so but I think we weren't doing viewpoints like all the time, but I feel like we definitely did it at least a couple times. Um because I don't think my first experience with it was in college, but then when I got to college, um my first show was very famously Dr. Faustus Lights the Lights
Mm-hmm.
by Miss
Mm-hmm.
Gertrude Stein. And if you've never read, um, it's one heck of a little show.
It's crazy. A lot happens.
Yeah, it's what's called a closet drama, is what our director
Mm-hmm.
told us. So like, it was never actually supposed to be like staged, but
Mm-hmm.
people kind of do it anyway,
But
and
here
like
we
nobody
are.
really knows what it means.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even to the point where like I don't know, our production was I love the person who directed it, but like so like even I think about it now, I'm just like, we really just didn't know what we were doing. We just like and he didn't know either. He was like, guys, there's
This
kind of
is
no
what we want
inherent
it to
meaning.
be.
There's no inherent meaning to this play.
How
It's,
fun.
it's such an interesting exercise as an actor to like go through.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and but yeah, so we did like viewpoints work almost like every rehearsal, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um And that's where I really like started to play around with it and realize I enjoyed the work, as it were.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And if you're wondering what viewpoints are, stick with us for just a moment longer, and everything will be
Yeah.
literally
We
explained.
swear. We swear.
But yeah.
Gotcha.
And so Becker,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course, like kind of throughout college, I had a chance to develop my relationship with them through various
Mm-hmm.
classes and through other shows. Do we do them during the drag seed? Yeah, we did, right?
No,
I think we did at least a couple times.
maybe.
We played a lot of games during drag seed, but that wasn't your
Yeah, I was
department.
more of a yeah. Yeah, I feel like we did a lot of individual warm-ups. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
But yeah. But
Mhm,
Becca,
mhm.
I'd love to
Yeah.
know where you're coming at with viewpoints.
Well, I remember the first time I did I really only started doing theater, especially acting, during college. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did viewpoints for the first time my freshman year in acting one. And I remember I literally did not like them.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay. Um, that was kind of stupid. Um, I really, yeah, I don't know. I think I was like, I felt still like uncomfortable doing all like the frou-frou, like get into your, like, get out of your mind and into your body type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I just felt disconnected from all that pretty much until I got more comfortable with it. And by
Mm-hmm.
senior year, I mean, famously, that's why it's on the stand list, guys. We love it.
Favorite
Because
thing.
yeah, 4 years later, I'm obsessed and I love it so much, and I couldn't think of a better thing.
Zip zap zopping with the literal best of them.
Yeah, yeah, you better believe it.
Um, but yeah, so just to give people a little background on viewpoints is basically like the way we do them is it's kind of like a warm-up device or like a theater kind of like um exercise wherein it usually starts every time. I'm pretty sure like every time I've done it, it starts on a grid.
Yeah.
And so like somebody will be running the exercise and they'll be like, okay, so you're walking on a grid.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you understand that they're only like you can only really like turn and like walk and turn, and then they like kind of let you just do it at your own kind of leisure and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then you slowly start experimenting with the elements of viewpoints, and then eventually hilarity ensues and
Absolutely.
stuff can start to happen. But viewpoints is basically a way that it's useful for warming up when you're first getting into something, or it's a lot of people use it to like devise work. And so like if you're trying to like
Mm-hmm.
forge a kind of new work, viewpoints is a good way to kind of physically do that. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
like saying, oh, I'm gonna write this play down by my lonesome, me and Becca
Yeah.
could get together and say, we're gonna move in space together and see what kind of narratives we can create.
Yeah.
And then,
Which we definitely should do sometime.
yeah.
Whoa, whoa,
Us doing a
whoa,
full viewpoint show. At
whoa.
PJ Live is just us doing viewpoints for an hour.
We encourage the audience to get involved. We encourage
No,
it.
literally,
Yeah.
like give us the action.
Shout action words.
Shout action words. Oh,
Yeah.
but I can totally see, like, it's almost like I feel bad for kids like you, because you said you weren't really familiar, like kids who are just like thrown to the wolves. Because like at our university, it worked that you took like intro to performance, which is very like
Mm-hmm.
just like not like it's pretty straightforward in terms of acting. It's like you prepare monologues and
Yeah. Like,
maybe
guys,
some
the
scene
athletes
work.
take it as their art class.
Oh, yes. Like, not,
Yeah.
we have to offer 15 sections of it. So, like, enough
Yeah.
kids can take it.
Yeah.
So then, like, some people are like, oh my God, I loved intro to performance. Let me take acting one or voice and movement one. And then,
Yeah.
like, you get thrown to, like, the wolves of
Yeah.
doing viewpoints work.
Yeah. And what's that? I forget the guy's name. It's even worse, where you stare at your scene partner and just stare blankly at them for like hours. We did that once.
Meisner?
Could be.
Suzuki, not Suzuki.
I literally don't know.
um,
I have a degree in theater. I don't know.
yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, I imagine it would be really weird for a kid who's just like, well, I did theater in high school.
Yeah.
Or somebody who's just coming to the craft.
Yeah, starting out. Definitely. Yeah, it can feel weird, but then you start to realize it's like there is a certain level of like, oh, this is embarrassing.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, so I definitely was feeling that in my acting one class.
And I constantly say freedom can be freedom is liberatory and liberation is scary.
Mm-hmm. Terrifying,
And
really.
so just being able to do whatever, like there's a safety in having like a scene and saying, okay, I say this thing after this person says this thing, and my
Mm-hmm.
director told me to walk here, and so I do that on that line as well.
Yep.
Um, but then it's like a crazy thing when it's like, oh, just go off what your impulse is.
Yeah. And it's like,
But it's also
whoa,
like,
whoa.
don't think about it,
Yeah.
which is also something people struggle with, like getting out of your mind, getting out of the
Mm-hmm.
thinking mind,
Yep.
and just like letting yourself go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the whole point of all of this.
Yeah. It's just a way to exist, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's kind of a good
That's
background.
yeah.
A little
Yeah.
short, but I feel like it's hard to explain without like getting into like the
Without
weeds.
explaining what it is. Yeah.
We're gonna give
Yeah.
viewpoints 101 to you guys in the next
Mm-hmm.
segment.
So that
Oh,
we can
well
all
then,
do it as
well actually one
friends.
more question I guess I can ask is what was your first experience then with the vocal viewpoints? So like regular
Oh
viewpoints
yeah.
are kind of like you do your like you do it in like physical space, and then vocal viewpoints, I guess you could say like you're also doing vocal viewpoints when you're doing physical viewpoints, like especially when you
Mm-hmm.
add like sound and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I feel like most viewpoints exercises I've been in have, but we have also together
Mm-hmm.
participated in specifically vocal viewpoint exercises. So like what was your first kind of experience with that?
Well, yeah, it was in class and it was after we had done like the physical viewpoints for a while, so we were pretty comfortable with it. And then Kelly was like, our professor was like, "Hey, let's do the vocal viewpoints." We all sat in a circle, we did it. And it went on for it could have been going on for 5 minutes or for 35 minutes, and I would have no way to tell the difference
I believe it was like
because
10.
okay, fair enough. When we like woke up, I was like, okay, so I have to share with the group that I hallucinated. I fully pictured us as cartoon balls that were like bouncing and making these noises. Like I like it it truly was transcendental
Uh-huh.
and it's so special to me because of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my first time ever doing it. Had you ever done it before?
I'd never done it like that. Like I'd never done a
Okay.
viewpoints exercise where we specifically focused on like vocal viewpoints. I had
Mm-hmm.
read about the difference between the physical viewpoints and the vocal viewpoints, definitely in acting one.
Gotcha.
And my acting one group, we did a lot of like stuff with the viewpoints. Like our group was doing some weird stuff when it came to viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were very much like we did a lot with our voices and with like choreography we would come up it with in like the actual thing a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
it felt like, but even then there wasn't that like explicit focus on the vocal viewpoints. But that time in class that we did, like we all sat in a circle and made like the bird noises, like
Yeah.
that was kind of the
Ah,
only time I've specifically like been like, oh, I'm doing vocal viewpoints right now.
gotcha. Okay.
Other than when I'm just by myself, because when I'm by myself sometimes I just make weird noises.
I've heard you.
Does that mean you understand, or does that mean you've heard me make weird noises?
No. Both.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think no, I think you are specific in your warm-up process in that you do let yourself be free a little bit.
Mhm.
And yeah. So I physically have heard you, but also I understand. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. No, honestly, yoga with Adrienne, when she be invite I did a whole thing yesterday. Have you ever been doing her practice when she does knocking on heaven's doors?
Not that I can recall.
Oh, I'm surprised because she loves it. but it's literally you stand and you just like sway back and forth, like, and you let your arms be
Oh, with
limp.
your arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was doing that yesterday, and then she was like, and guys, just like get free with it. And so I literally was like hopping around my room like a little monkey, like
Oh,
doing it.
awesome.
Like
Oh my God.
sometimes I get way too, like, sometimes I get very into my yoga practice, and it very much becomes like crazy. Things I do
Disrupts your
during yoga.
others.
I was talking to my friend today about, oh my God, when we do the deep dive on yoga with Adrian,
It's gonna be
yeah.
crazy. I was just thinking, I'm so
I was talking to
excited.
my friend Corey. I was like, oh, I fully like talk to her when I do yoga sometimes.
She's just my
No,
bestie.
she does. That my best friend. She a real bad bitch.
There's go
Um,
money.
but yeah. But but you know, yoga is kind of similar to the viewpoints in a way.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so.
But anyway, we'll
Well,
explain all of that in our next segment, which will come right after this small break.
shortly.
Guys, I'm scared.
Yeah, guys.
Yeah, Ariana, what are you doing
So what are
here?
you doing here? But we are back, and if
Yeah,
you
it's
were sitting
true.
through that first segment, being like, "What the fuck are they even talking about?" Don't worry, don't
We'll
worry.
catch you up. We'll
We're
catch you
gonna
up.
catch you
Catch
up.
you
We're gonna
up.
catch you up. Cause we know not everybody is theater girlies, and of the theater girlies, this is even like a more niche kind of micro interest within theater.
Yes,
Like
viewpoints core.
some people did theater in high school, but they do not know viewpoints. You know,
Yeah, and that's
like
okay.
you know, viewpoints is if you did theater in college type beat.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, what the fuck are viewpoints even, as I wrote in the outline.
Yeah.
And so the viewpoints, especially the vocal ones as they exist now, are product of collaboration between theater legends Anne Bogart and Tina Landau while they were in the
Mm-hmm.
faculty of the experimental theater wing at NYU. Um and the
It's true.
experimental theater wing at NYU is place of legend in the theater community.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But it's interesting because the viewpoints were actually first introduced by dance and theater artist Mary Overly. Um, and so yeah, it's pretty well known, but like Anne Bogart and Tina Landau kind of wrote the book on viewpoints, but they were definitely it
Mm-hmm.
was a concept they adapted from Mary Overly's concept.
Yeah.
Um, and so Overly starts with 6 viewpoints, which Bogart and Landau extended into 9 physical viewpoints and 5 vocal viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically kind of just a way to look at like physical space and bodies in physical space, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um,
Yeah.
and so Overly's viewpoints are space, shape, time, emotion, movement, and story.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bogart and Landau use a lot of those, and then all of Overly's viewpoints show up in some way in Bogart and Landau's work.
Mm-hmm.
So in the physical viewpoints, there's architecture, so that's like the aspects of the space and how bodies interact with the aspects. So like there's a wall back there.
Yeah.
If
There's a
I were to walk,
chair I'm
if I were
sitting
to walk,
on.
I would eventually hit the wall, and that would be
Yeah.
like my
And we
body
have to
interacting with
acknowledge that.
architecture. and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this day and age, we have to say that. Spatial relationship, which is the distance between objects on stage. So like my head to my microphone, there's a spatial
Mm-hmm.
relationship between those two objects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Topography, which is your movement over landscape or like floor patterns. So
Yeah.
like if you're making a shape on the floor, or like the shape your body is making with respect to the floor,
Yeah.
depending on
Like
who's
figure eights.
watching. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um Shapes, that's the contour or outline of bodies in space, or the shape of an individual body. So if someone's going like this
What shape they're
or like
making.
this.
If two people hold their
And
hands at the
then
top, they're a circle.
yes. Gesture, um, which is a behavioral or expressive shape that has a beginning, middle, and end. And usually vocal viewpoints is like, or no, physical viewpoints. Usually people like it to be a little bit more abstract, but like a gesture would be like, I don't know why this came to me, but like flipping someone off.
Yeah.
Like
Waving.
this, like just doing this is not a gesture really. I mean, I guess it really is because I can't like isolate like this.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is a gesture. So like pulling up is the beginning, the middle finger,
Yeah.
and then putting it down.
Yeah.
Um and then tempo, which is how quickly or slowly something is happening. Duration, which is how long something occurs, and then kinesthetic response, which is how performers respond to different aspects on stage
Mm-hmm.
or of the space. So like if you trip over the floor, which I do consistently,
Mm-hmm.
that's a kinesthetic response to the floor.
Yep.
And then repetition is like repeating something. So if you're just going like this.
Yeah. Or if someone is doing something and you start repeating that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true.
Yeah. And so that's kind of an interesting way to kind of describe the physical kind of dimension on stage.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah,
Um,
basically in a viewpoints practice, you would start
mhm.
with a few of these and you would slowly add up until you're doing all of this. So maybe you
Yes.
just usually start with, what is it, tempo?
Yeah.
And so you're
So like you're
walking,
walking on the grid at
you're
like
walking on
a
the grid.
constant speed.
Yeah, at a speed that everyone agrees at. So what? Left, right, left, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing, except you're not saying it out loud.
hmm
And then you start explaining with tempo and then duration and then
So people
kinesthetic
start walking
response.
faster than other people or slower than other
Yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Repetition and then shape and then topography and then spatial and then architecture.
Mhm.
So basically like your physical view of what you can like take into account as you are doing these actions and stuff widens as the practice goes on until you get to like play with and incorporate more into like the room with you. Like you consider more before you do something, even though you're
Yes.
not supposed to think about anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this kind of interesting give and take where like it's kind of like as somebody with a meditation practice, it's kind of like a
It's
moving
mindfulness.
meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a moving meditation you do with other people. I mean, I guess you
Mm-hmm.
could do a viewpoint exercise like by yourself,
Yeah.
but especially when you have like
It's great
other
for group
people,
work.
yes,
Yeah.
it starts to come and like it's just basically like you're not premeditating,
Yeah.
I think is what it is. It's like you don't go in with a preconceived notion of like, oh, this is what I want the story to be. Especially if
Yeah.
it's just the first time and you guys are just like playing around. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um, you definitely don't go in with that, and it's annoying when people do.
Yes.
Um,
So true. Because you can always tell.
yeah, you can
Always,
tell like
always
when
tell.
like if somebody's in a thing and they're either trying to like make it about themselves
Mm-hmm.
or like, you have to kind of like you have to play. Like you have to be able to
Yeah.
share a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Um and I think that is something I do enjoy so much about the viewpoints is because theater can be really like intense and
Mm-hmm.
serious, and sometimes you lose the plot a little bit and you have to bring yourself back to a state of like, oh, we're playing. Like
Yeah, this is supposed to be
we're
fun,
yeah, we're
guys.
playing pretend. Like uh, in play like in there's always supposed to be an element of fun when you're like doing something like that.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
you're not who you say you are in that moment. You're someone else. And like there's something
Mm-hmm.
inherently like fun, childlike, whimsical about
About
that. Or
that.
at least I believe
Yeah,
there is.
totally.
And I believe that viewpoints kind of takes you back to that. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that's why a lot of people also could struggle with it.
Yeah.
Um, because you like have your childhood and then viewpoints as like a concept is something you can't really like start to understand really, or not can't, but like I feel like I only really encountered it later. And
Mm-hmm.
so you have all those like childlike impulses kind of like systemically like beaten out of you.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people find it really hard to connect to something. Like people
Yes, no.
find it really hard to come back home in that way and just like play
Absolutely.
around
Like
and be stupid.
you have to be speaking to your inner child when you do viewpoints
Mhm.
because it really just is like, hey, like what, like do you want a tantrum right now? Like, do it.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what do you want to do right now? What is like,
Mm.
it's just about what you want and letting yourself have it. It's
It's
magic.
magic.
It's
The viewpoints are
magic.
magic.
Oh my God, guys, that was cute. It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. It's true.
Oh my God. But it's like not fun when somebody's making viewpoints about themselves. Not
Mm-hmm.
gonna name any names, but when Becca and I were in
Yeah.
Voice of Movement
Yeah.
2, our final semester of college, which we were the main characters of.
Yeah.
In some ways, Voice of Movement 2 was the early stages of MPJ because we were constantly doing bits with each other in that class.
No, literally, it was the playground for
Um,
it.
there was one individual in the class who would always like kind of try to steal focus in the viewpoints,
Yeah. Be
which is such
that
like a which is such a
person.
dumb thing because it's like literally we were just doing it in class. Like, who are you showing off to? The
Yeah,
teacher?
literally.
Like what? Anyway,
She
and
don't care.
so it was also funny because like that person like when they like missed class one time
Mm-hmm.
and
We had so
I
much
feel like this
fun.
might have been no literally I feel like this might have been our professor's acknowledgement that like they were kind of affecting the vibe because
Yeah, yeah.
they were like, oh, it's so interesting that did anybody notice that the person who steals focus, they didn't say this, but like the person who steals focus name, we'll call them Carl. Did anybody notice that Carl wasn't here today? And we were all like, yeah. And then our professor was like, oh, it was really interesting to watch how that changed things.
Literally.
It's like
Literally.
and then they were like, well, it's interesting how one member of the ensemble being gone can really like affect the whole.
Make everyone happier.
Yeah. Um and so yeah, but it was just really like I don't know, just don't be like a scene stealer or like,
Yeah. It's just not yeah. It's very childish in a not good way.
yeah.
Not in the child fun we're
Um
having.
but yeah. But it was really fun because like sometimes like when we would be doing exercise, we would just like start playing like like we would make up games.
Yes, there were many times where
Because we were in this like studio theater that had like there was like a stage and then there was like back tunnels that led to like dressing
yeah,
rooms and like the outside and stuff. And like so you could like run off and like run around a little
run
bit
into the tunnels. Yeah. There
and
was
like pop out.
many games of hide and seek. There was like low-key a game of like Beyond Survivor.
Oh
It was
no,
like
yeah.
Lord of the Flies type of game.
Oh yeah.
And Quinn killed many. We cannot lie. We cannot
Oh my
lie.
God. I'm gonna get into that later.
Okay,
But
okay. Slay.
oh my God, that was quite the
Yeah.
game. But anyway. And so yeah, but then that's kind of like the physical viewpoints. But then there are also vocal viewpoints. And so they have 5 elements. So pitch, which is the highness or the lowness of a sound, and then dynamic, which is like the loudness or the softness of the sound,
Mm-hmm.
acceleration or deceleration, so speeding up or slowing down of a sound. It's also like if you're changing like pitch or dynamic, it's how fast those things happen. So if you go like or
Yeah.
versus like like
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, there's a little dip in there.
Right.
Um
I heard it.
silence. Before there was love, there was silence, is what I always like to say. And then timbre,
Crickets.
which is like the texture or quality of the sound.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So fun. So for Vocal Viewpoints, it's the same sort of building scenario where you start,
uh,
everyone starts at the same pitch. So maybe me and Quinn would be like, and then we would incorporate dynamic. So I could be like,
uh,
and then acceleration and deceleration. Mhm. Exactly. And then silence. Oh, and then timbre. And then basically you can just start then adding in some other aspects like awareness of those around you. So like repetition, like response to someone else's call. Like if someone goes
Uh-huh.
whoo whoo, and then you go ha ha, something like that.
Oh.
And you're all in this big group, and it's this crazy thing of sound and reaction, and like it's so fun.
A
Like
little
I said,
cacophony.
I could do it for hours, bro. Hours, actually.
No, it is like when you get into that space and you're like
In it.
I've gotten to a point of like voice movement 2 really made me like want to like do acting practice at like a higher level because it's like honestly like so fun like when
Literally.
you actually like get into it and just like let yourself go
Uh-huh.
and like especially the people who like get like masters in like acting or something like those are like the true freaks and so like
Yeah.
the fact that like you could
Fucking
play and like just like
weirdos.
run around
Yeah.
or like if you did it for like a long time like what if you did it for like an hour or something.
I feel like I could. It's so
I'm sure in the
fun.
experimental theater wing they were doing it for like hours on end.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sure. No water.
oh no,
No water.
the water's in a bowl on the side of the stage, and you have to like create a compelling story on why you have to get
On
to
why
it.
you have to act as a cat.
Literally. Um, but yeah, and then there are certain kind of exercises you can do within viewpoints, to, like add a certain thing to it. So I know one we did in voice and movement was you do it with like a ball. Like you have a
Yes.
ball, but guys, this is the twist. Ready? There's not actually a ball.
Oh,
Across the
the room was shocked.
um, but yeah, so there's no actual ball, and so like literally you can just like throw the ball to people, and sometimes I think when we did it, it was stipulated that like each time the ball is a little different.
Yeah.
Like when ball changes from person to person. So like if it's
You
like a
gotta
tennis
change
ball
the
versus
meaning of the
like a soccer
ball.
ball versus like a
Yeah.
ball that like you just imagine in your head and like nobody else knows exactly what it looks like, but maybe you could like paint a picture for them.
Yeah. I made the ball a baby one time. It's fine.
Yeah. I made it a death weapon.
Yeah. Wow.
A death weapon.
Cancer versus Sag.
Literally.
Made the ball a baby. I made the ball a death weapon.
Baby ball, death weapon. Some people would say a baby is a death weapon.
Yeah, in a way.
In a way, actually. Are there any other like specific kind of exercises that people do, or have you ever done like interesting kind of takes on them?
I feel like all of what I did was pretty much in voice and movement too.
Mhm.
I didn't even take voice and movement 1. Did you?
Yeah, we didn't do viewpoints in that because I took it
You
over
didn't?
Zoom.
Oh, boo.
We did Laban in that one.
Gotcha, which I'm familiar with. I did that when I did that Irish play my freshman year. Anywho.
Yeah, we
Anywho.
learned Laban in that one.
Gotcha.
Which is a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fat German.
What do you feel like is the perfect amount of people to do viewpoints with?
Such a good question.
I'm so, because we had like what, a class of like 20 probably?
A little less than
Maybe
that, probably
less.
16.
Okay. Because in my acting one class, I think also maybe part of why I didn't like it was because there was like 9 of us.
Oh.
It was a smaller place physically also.
Oh, did you do it in the
So
dance studio?
we were in Belfield.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or the auditorium.
No, the studio.
Yeah, upstairs. Okay. That's where I
Yeah.
headed to.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, who'd you have?
Sean.
I had Sean too.
We're such lucky duckies.
Love that, man. Wait, were there only 9 people in your class?
Something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
We had a
not
lot
of
more people
people
in my class, and
Okay.
like he split us into 2 groups, and there were probably like at least 7 or 8 in our like groups that we did viewpoints with.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I would say it doesn't really. I mean, I guess it depends on the space because like that space in like Belfield, which is like a small kind of like dance studio, you can't
Mhm.
really be doing that much versus like
Yeah, it's true.
where we had Voice of Movement too, it was
A much larger space to move
yes,
around and such. Yeah,
and there
you're
was a lot
right.
more to play with. I think it kind of depends less on the amount of people for me and more
Mhm.
like how down everybody is, if that makes sense.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, like if
Totally.
like, because like if everybody's just down to clown and like have
Yeah.
fun,
Mhm. Doesn't
like
matter.
yeah.
I would love to get like 100 people together and do it though. I feel
Oh
like
my
that would be
God.
so crazy.
There'd be so much going on, literally.
Yeah. Yeah. Cities. Empires would fall.
City empires would fall. Oh, do you know where else I probably had to do viewpoints when I auditioned for like colleges and stuff? I
Oh,
remember
you think?
specifically there was one. I remember specifically there was one where I had to like there was like a viewpoints like exercise
Where was it?
pace
I see.
because they have like a specific program that's like all about like devise like the whole point of like the
Oh, okay.
cohort, not like the point, it's not like devising, but like it's part of like you spend like over the course of like your 4 years with your like ensemble, you like
Mm.
create like a piece.
Oh, interesting.
And so yeah, they do a lot of like viewpoints to like so we did like a viewpoints type exercise to like as a part of the audition.
Gotcha, gotcha.
um and they must not liked how I did it.
Oops.
I want to say there was like a thing with like a bucket of water, like I want to say we had to all be like a bucket of water together.
Oh, interesting. I do remember it wasn't viewpoints, but I did take one in high school. I think I was a senior, but I took at the local theater a little
Hmm.
class or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was not strictly viewpoints or whatever, but it was kind of like you get to imagine like what who you are, what you are, and you can't use words.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone's in this one space, and just me and this kid just decided like we're gonna act like this really old couple, and then we're gonna walk over here and do drugs. And we did that. And then
Yeah.
the teacher was like, and you guys, were you guys doing drugs over there? And we were like, yeah, thinking maybe she would be like, don't do that. But she was like,
She was like,
okay, just make sure that you turn this way so that you could see it more. We were like,
she
cool.
said, cheat out.
Cheat out, find your light, find your light. Yeah, crazy actually.
Yeah, no, but I think that's I just lost what I was gonna say in a reaction as a reaction to that. I
Speechless.
yeah, literally. Like I can't add anything to it really.
Crazy, it's crazy.
Um but yeah. So as kind of like as somebody who's a director,
Mm-hmm.
would you say what is something that you believe that like viewpoints can like add to an ensemble?
Well, I think definitely if you are trying to figure out the physicality of a scene, or maybe it's a difficult one and you just want like a fresh look at it, doing a viewpoints exercise is really nice to get people into their bodies and stuff like we talked about. It's
Uh-huh.
also it is really good for like just as a warm up to like build group bond.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
by the end of our class, I felt so like connected to those people pretty much. Like it was
Uh-huh.
really fun. And it is something special that like, oh my God, you may never get to do that same, like it can never be recreated.
Yeah. And
That's so beautiful.
that's what I wanted to say about your thing, and you just jogged my memory. But it's like
Okay.
it shows how you can like negotiate with people without all
Mm-hmm.
these things we've been taught.
Yes.
Like something this was a different thing in our class, but like when we were doing active analysis, which is kind of similar to viewpoints, but different and like developed by a different
Mm-hmm.
person. But like active analysis is a lot of abstract movement, and so you can't use like prescriptive gestures. So like
Yeah.
this. Or like
won't
you
work.
can use this, but like you can't use it like how we expect it.
How
Like if
you
you did
want
like
it to be
if you did
used.
like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm holding my middle. I realize this is a visual medium at this point, but
Yeah.
but like I'm holding up my middle finger, like a middle finger. Like holding your middle finger up at somebody means something in our society, like this.
Mhm.
But like if you were like ooh and just like moving it around and like making a weird noise, like that changes. That becomes a little bit
Yeah.
more abstract,
If you made
because
your
then you're
whole
just
body the
using
middle finger
then you're just using the shape. Then you're just using the shape of like your middle
as a
finger being
tool.
up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like as a part of something bigger. Um, but like in viewpoints, you don't have to use like prescriptive gestures or language or like anything. You can just like negotiate stuff and like still get what you want across, still get your impulse, or you can like forge something completely new with people,
Yeah. It's
and that's why the
true.
ball exercise is good because you have the baby and
Mhm.
then you give me like you're carrying around a baby and you're like, oh, look at the baby, look at the baby, and then you hand it off to me and I turn it into a death laser,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's like you can like negotiate the scenes differently if that makes sense.
Yeah. Flip things on their head. Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, Quinn, you are also a director of sorts.
My God.
Can I flip this question back to you? What
Sure,
value do you
yeah.
find in viewpoints?
I find it to be an interesting way to, first of all, I would love to like actually do something where like what I described, like actually devise something like completely physically like ground up.
Yeah.
Like just bring a bunch of people together. It's such a unique thing. Like it would have to be in the context of like a class or like something like that. But like literally
Mhm.
just have like a group of like however many people and then just literally just start playing around and then see what we all want to make together.
Yeah.
Like that would be cool if we just came in with like obviously not no preconceived notions because it would be like you can't wipe yourself like completely blank slate. But
Right.
like, if it all just happened, like that would be really cool to like actually build something and actually have it come from like a physical like place.
Mhm.
I also
Yeah.
found that like you said, when as a lot of 18-year-olds, I wasn't very comfortable in my body when I like came to college. And
Mhm.
so a lot of what I learned in college was how to exist in my body a little bit more as an actor
Yeah.
and how to use my physicality a little bit more as a performer, which
Mhm.
I feel like I was comfortable with in like a certain way. Like physical comedy has always been something I feel like I excelled at, but like
Mhm.
abstract movement was something I wasn't really challenged to do until I'm doing viewpoints or I'm doing active
Mhm.
analysis or something like that.
Yeah.
And so it did really like that. It just got me more. It allows you to experiment with the experience coming from a different place. So, like when you're building a character,
Mhm.
if you get like a script or like anything and you want to develop a character, it allows you to like build it from a different place than just having like an idea. Like I have like the random ideas thing on my phone and I have like
Right.
certain characters written down in that. But
Mhm.
and that's like one way to do it and that's how a lot of people do it. Like that's how novelists write characters.
Mhm.
But like and also a lot of people who write plays and stuff. But also, what if you wrote a character just like based off like a physical impulse you got?
Yeah.
Like if you took some deep breaths and then you started playing with like physical impulses you're getting
Mhm.
and you built a character based off that. Or if you like have read your character, if you've like read a play and you're like, okay, I'm this character. I'm Juliet, in
Mhm.
Romeo and Juliet. And
Mhm.
so now I'm going to go exist in a space by myself. Or I'm going to
Yeah.
go exist in a space with the rest of my like cast and kind of
Mhm.
see how
I
my
feel.
physical
Yeah.
reality exists, if that makes sense. So it's just a
Yeah.
different way to approach the work that I think is
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
And which
Totally.
is kind of good for me as somebody who I tend to over intellectualize a lot of things. And
Mhm.
like theater and preparation of a role is no exception. So
Yeah.
sometimes doing viewpoints work in certain things has allowed me to come to a new realization of
Mhm.
like a certain quality, or it gives me a different angle to go about it than just like reading words on a page, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, acting is just preparation so that you can trust your impulses. And so impulses have such value. And
Uh-huh.
so even if you have to throw out 1,000 of the physical things you did or learned when you were doing viewpoints, but one of them like can inform your character or your work,
Mhm.
that is like really valuable, I think.
Yeah. Or it doesn't even have to be like a like, oh, my arm is like this, like my arm's limp or something. Like it's not even that.
Mm-hmm.
It can just be like a quality. Like it can just be like
Yeah,
something
like, ooh,
something
like
truly
maybe I have my
only
shoulders back more, you
yeah, or
know?
like something
Yeah.
truly only you can feel, like like a
Yeah.
physical sensation that like
Mm-hmm.
only like a certain thing in like your chest. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that was more active analysis, like when we were really working through like the movement pieces of it. I like
Mm-hmm.
felt these certain qualities that then I took into my monologue as things I wanted to like ground my monologue in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's lovely. Informative.
yeah. And it was nice because after all of that, like throughout college, it was fun because it was like I remember like during, I think it was during Dr. Faust, which I talked about in the first segment, like I was like, oh, this viewpoint stuff is cool. I want to get more comfortable with it. I want to get to know it a little bit more, and I want to get more comfortable using my body.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then by Voice of Movement too, which is the last like acting class I took, I felt like I was really excelling in that area and doing
Yeah.
really well with it. And so it was a
Good.
nice little full circle moment.
Little something,
Something for the kids.
something. Something
Um,
kids.
but yeah. I'm finding this is like very hard to describe. Like,
I truly, I mean, yeah, it's hard to describe because you can't, you just have to do it, guys. You just have
yeah,
to
girls
try
could get it. Girls who
it.
don't,
Don't,
don't.
don't.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
basically, we love the viewpoints.
Yeah, we love these girls. We love these young girls.
I'm sure that you
Um,
can YouTube a video of like a viewpoints
oh my
exercise
God.
at
I
work,
wonder what
and
exists of that.
I know I would be curious. So let us know, guys. Comment corners.
Literally, comment corner. Do you guys have
Tell us
videos
what
of
you learned.
you doing viewpoints?
Ooh, have you ever done viewpoints?
Viewpoints work. Oh yeah, there definitely are. Oh my God, watching people do viewpoints, that must be so interesting.
I know.
Watching like complete strangers do viewpoints.
Now, what is the value in
Like
that,
what exists of
actually?
that? Um, but yeah. Should we like do
Wait,
should we
yeah.
do a little vocal? Should we do a vocal
Yeah,
exercise? Wait,
why not?
why not? If it's bad, we can just cut it out.
Exactly.
Wait, okay.
Okay.
So Becca and I are going to do a little demonstration for you guys.
Yeah.
This will be interesting virtually.
I know, with only two people.
Yeah, but I'm excited for
Okay.
it. So,
Me too.
so we started the same pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh,
uh,
oh,
uh,
oh, oh,
uh,
oh, oh,
uh,
oh,
uh, uh,
oh, oh, oh,
oh,
oh, oh, oh.
oh. Ah, ah, ooh, ooh, ooh,
Ooh.
ooh,
Ooh.
ah, 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 ah,
Ooh.
oh, oh,
Ah.
ah.
Ooh. Ah.
Ah,
Ooh.
ah,
Ah. Ah. Ah.
ah,
Ah.
ah, ah,
Ah. Ah.
ah, ah,
Ah. Ah.
ah.
Ah.
You.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Wait,
Ew.
ah.
Rah,
Meh.
rah.
Ah.
Whoa. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Mwah.
Mm.
Hmm.
Ker-plunk. Perfect.
And there it is, guys. Wait, that was like,
Ker-plunk. That's fun.
yeah, it's fun. Something for the kids.
Something for the fucking kids. Something sweet for the fucking kids.
So, guys, if you ever are wondering what skills
It
a
takes to
degree
do
in
this.
a degree in theater can give you,
Boom.
I was
Ew.
about to say, oh my God, I heard this really funny joke. I was listening to Seek Treatment,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and they were talking about this girl, and she was like, they were like, oh, what does she like to do? And they go, oh, she likes to like rock climb. And they're like, oh, what does she do for a living? And she goes, oh, she repairs like what are they called? Not windmills, wind turbines.
Okay.
She's like a wind turbine repair person. And then Pat Regan was like, oh, wow. Because like usually rock climbing isn't like a transferable skill.
Oh, wow. That is funny.
I was like screaming at that.
I scaled the wind turbine, bro.
Literally.
Put on your
Oh,
underwear for the building.
well, I hope Becca and I have not confused you all more about what's going on with Viewpoints work. But
Yeah, guys. Let us know.
yeah, we'll see.
Write in. Write in if you're terribly confused still.
No, we'll truly
We'll have
see.
to,
And
yeah.
yeah, or take some classes at your local
Read a book, maybe.
theater or read the Viewpoints book. I
Think
believe
about
that's the
it.
thing that exists. But we're gonna throw to a quick break and then we'll be right back.
Guys, I'm scared.
I've got nothing on but the radio. I thought for sure you would also do that, but that's fine.
No, I did it right before,
No.
which they will
Yeah, you're
never
right.
see.
I will not let it slip. Okay. Well,
Literally.
guys. It's time for the weekly segments. You already knew that, though.
I think yeah.
I don't believe we have a comment corner.
No.
Flop, flop, flop.
Flop, flop, flop.
So we must move on, or else I'm gonna get pissed off. So we're gonna move on to the jump scare having to do with the vocal viewpoints. So this is anything that Quinn or the regular viewpoints, whatever you
Mhm.
want. This is something that Quinn and I found so scary, so frightening, so terrible, so horrible, or maybe just not great. Considering or surrounding or of the viewpoints / vocal viewpoints. So Quinn, what was that for
Mhm.
you?
Mine would honestly be, and we've referenced it a couple times, but when we played the ball viewpoint game in Voice of Movement, and
Uh-huh.
I got the ball, and for some reason when it came to me, I was like, oh, I'm about to murder everybody with this.
I'm about to kill people. Yeah, it's
And
true. You
it
did.
was like it got kind of like it got so like I just like I forget what it was before, but like somebody offered it to me, like because like
Amicably.
yes, amicably. And
Yeah.
like you like because like the ball has power. Like when the whole thing is around the ball kind of has power.
Yeah.
So like the ball had a lot of power, and so like I was intrigued by the power. And so somebody gave it to me and I was like, "Oh, I'm so thankful. Oh my God." And then I remember I like expanded a little bit and literally just like thrust it toward the
Ooh.
person and like screamed at them, and then they were like, "Ah," and they like got that I was trying to kill them.
Yeah.
But when you're in class at like a school and you start doing that kind of thing, it
And it's
becomes
3
very,
p.m.
yeah, it becomes very evocative of like a school shooting quite quickly.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, great
Yeah, and
heavens.
like I know I felt like I remember like in the moment I was like, oh, I have to like figure out a way to get rid of the ball right now because I feel like I've like done a
Too much
bad
power.
thing. No,
Oh
like
God,
yeah,
there's evil within me.
no, I
There's
like
evil
took a
within
like
me.
I took like a really like I couldn't get the image out of my mind, and I was like, oh, I'm like doing like a school shooting,
Oh boy, I didn't think that at
which like
all.
I was not good
Yeah.
because I was probably just like thinking about it too much, but like. And it was just a game we were playing, but it just became like kind of weird. But again, that's
Yeah.
kind of a way that like, outside things can affect the work.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Um,
true.
but yeah. So yeah, that was my little jump scare. But Becca, what is your jump scare when it comes to the viewpoints, vocal, physical? Any of them really.
I would say there is something scary about the viewpoints, and that is you well typically when you're in a theater space and there's a certain type of floor and you're like, gonna be like laying on the floor, you got to take off your shoes
Mm-hmm.
just for respect of the floor and the cleanliness of the floor.
Yes.
But I think what may be even dirtier is people's feet. Just the encountering of feet, I think, in the viewpoints is something that is a little tough.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like
And
putting
if
your face
you're
where feet can also go.
yeah, it's like okay. Because to create shapes and stories and moments and monuments even,
And whispers in the
uh
winds.
you got to be close to other people sometimes. You got to touch other people sometimes. And that includes encountering some feet. And Machine Gun Kelly, you can come on here and you can tell me all you want about how lovely feet are, and I'm gonna ignore you.
Yeah.
I don't like them. I don't like them.
No, yeah, literally.
Yeah, so thank you for that. But with the scary aside,
Uh-huh.
we now move on to the ever positive, the lovely, the life changing, bus, club, another club, plane. Anyway, no
Anywhere you
sleep.
want to be in the
Manic
viewpoints,
pixie
truly.
moment having to do with viewpoints. So Quinn? Oh.
What? Did I freeze?
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe I froze,
Quinn,
but I don't know. I was scared. Big Quinn.
don't leave me.
Don't leave me. What was the Meg Pixie moment for you having to do with viewpoints?
Mine was probably in Dr. Faust's Lights the Lights. Like I got like that was when I first started really experimenting with viewpoints. Like
Mm-hmm.
and like I feel like I was in an environment that was like supportive of that. So like when I was like a dog, I played a dog in the show. Um and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
during the
A
viewpoints,
little context there.
I would like do viewpoints on all fours sometimes and like walk
Yep,
around the
as you
space on all
should.
fours.
Well, how
And kind of
uncomfortable was it to do that show, by the way?
oh, I didn't have it as bad as some other people.
Mm.
I forget the blocking. I definitely wasn't on all fours like the whole time, or maybe I was.
I saw as a viewing member of the show,
Hmm.
first time I ever saw Quinn. I feel like you were on all fours for most of it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Enough for me
Um,
to be like, ooh,
I do
I
not
hope
remember being too
I have
physically
knee
uncomfortable.
pads.
The people who were really physically uncomfortable were Parker and Diane, who played little
Right.
girl and little boy.
Yeah.
Um, because they had to literally sit up like on a pillow, but like no back support and just stare. And they were directed to like try not to blink either. Um,
I would have had to drop the show so fast.
and so they literally had to like for an hour and a half, they had to sit up like straight and like just stare. And
Ugh.
try not to blink. So I remember they were definitely the most physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's fair to
And
say.
also Sam, who played the character's name is Marguerite, Ida, and Helena Annabelle.
Yeah.
Um, and she had part of her character design was that she was barefoot on
Mm-hmm.
one foot was
One
barefoot and
foot.
one was in a high heel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that That also is tough.
And she was like, yeah, that show gave me like back problems.
I'm forever changed my bones. Developed
Yeah.
scoliosis. Yeah.
So like, I don't remember being too physically uncomfortable at all. Um, but yeah, there was
Okay.
at one point there was a concept. So the dog is with this other character called the boy. Like I'm the boy's dog, and the boy lives
Mhm.
with Dr. Faustus. Um, and at our first rehearsal, my director was like, Quinn, would you be comfortable if you had a leash on?
Right out the gate.
And
Right out the
I was
gate,
like,
babe.
yeah. And he was like, okay, I think I might have you in a leash, and Sean might be leading you around.
And you were like, perfect.
And I was like, I'll do it. And it was funny because like Sean and I obviously work together a lot, and Sean will always talk to me about, could you imagine if I had actually like, do you remember? Because there is like Sean would always bring up to me like, what if I had actually had to like lead you around and stuff?
Yeah,
And
in
then
front
like
of our peers.
2 days later, the director came in and was like, actually, we're scrapping that idea entirely. I realized it's not the kind of ideas I want to evoke. Because I think everybody would
Smart.
have realized it would have taken the show in like a weird, like kinky direction.
Yeah, kinky.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and the fact that I'm a dog and all this weird stuff.
yeah.
But it was there was also our little shadow show we did. Do you remember we did a little shadow show at the beginning?
No.
We did this little thing like I used to but we did this little thing. Like our set design was like it was weird because like so there was a narrator in the show and she was supposed to represent Gertrude Stein, and so literally the design of the show was that she had like Elmoed things of like the script. Like she had the things you can put on like projector screens,
Mm-hmm.
um like the reflective paper, and she was literally just like she was keeping the script going as we were saying it and like making edits on it.
Ah,
Yeah, so like the
yeah.
projector was like a big part of it, but before the show even started we did like this weird show where we like went around in like a line and made all these weird shapes.
Okay.
And I remember
Okay.
I got to lead that because the person who choreographed it was really impressed with my
Oh, slay.
physical prowess. So like I was the first person
Good.
to like I was the first person to go, and we went around the line like 3 times, I want to say.
Nice.
That show was so weird.
Wow.
There was
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
a whole act where like somebody was basically giving like a monologue, or there was like a scene going on, and then everybody else who wasn't in a scene was bringing candles, like tea light candles. We were in like a line just bringing candles and like setting them down on stage.
Yep. Yeah. No, and you never got to see the show before. That the show
Oh,
is
voice
definitely
sack, yeah.
you one time called it the remix of
Oh
Wojciech.
yeah.
Um,
No, because like half the cast had been in Wojciech and they were all like it was
yeah.
all anybody could talk about.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
true.
everybody who wasn't in Wojciech was like, "Oh my God, well you didn't see it, but there's the show
We got
last year."
it.
Oh, and then also, so my spoiler alert, my character dies.
Mhm.
The dog and the boy die.
Yeah.
Um, and
Bummer.
there were these there were these big ass like pieces of plastic, like sheets of plastic,
Mm.
and me and the boy had to go up. We each like yanked them off their little like binder clips that were adhering them, and then we laid down on them and we wrapped ourselves up in them like burritos, like burrito taquito style, like. And we're
Burrito
just sitting
taquito.
for like a good like 5 to 10 minutes while the play ended. We were just laying there on stage in like these things in this little plastic wrap that like symbolized the fact that we were dead.
Why not, right?
It was so weird thinking back on it. Like now that I'm recalling more details, so weird actually.
I had to write like a 4-page paper on that show.
That would honestly be like the worst thing because honestly, if you had to like direct, there was no meaning to it. I feel so bad for
Yeah.
anybody who had to write anything about that show because there was literally no meaning to it, and like our director told us that.
No, I pretty much just wrote about the first minute where Malcolm like literally does the light thing.
Hmm.
And I was like, so let me just dive into this deep.
The lights got stolen too.
Oh,
Somebody literally stole the lights. Like
oh my
somebody,
God.
they think somebody like walked into like the theater and like stole the lights. Like that
Like
somebody.
before a show?
No, it was during the rehearsal process.
Oh.
Like somebody didn't like did somebody didn't lock up the theater correctly, and they think somebody like came in and stole the lights.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah,
Oh my
that was crazy.
God.
That was a crazy first college experience. But yeah.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
But Becca, what is your manic pixie moment when it actually comes to the viewpoints, factually and contractually?
So, I mean, on the opposite side of you, when I made the ball the baby during Viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to have a full midsummer moment in which the group kind
Oh
of weeped and
yeah.
cried and then laughed over this baby's life.
Uh-huh.
And it was cathartic.
Yeah, it was everything you wanted.
Yeah, exactly. So, to me, the power I gave that ball was, yeah, exactly as I intended.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just sometimes just being able to fucking scream is so good.
Yeah.
Just like screaming and wailing.
Yeah, no, that's the other nice thing about it. It's like my friend Corey took a class with our voice movement professor after the fact, and sometimes he would be like, yeah, some days I just didn't feel like participating. And I felt like I was the opposite, whereas like if there was some bullshit going on, I was just like,
Let me
okay,
participate.
let me go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Which is the nice thing about
exactly.
mindfulness. You can just go somewhere else whenever you want to. You have the power.
Sweet escape.
Just
Yeah.
go somewhere else and escape for a
Yeah.
little while.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like if I'm playing, I have to be present in the fact that I'm playing with my classmates right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That was also the fun thing about it. It was such the absurdity of like, I feel like you probably felt this, but like the fact that some people like were in like organic chemistry classes and like
Mm-hmm. And this
hating
was like
themselves
their
because they couldn't
elective.
figure out like, no, not even that, but like other people at the university are taking like organic chemistry, like
Oh.
feeling like they can't keep up and like not being able to like solve the equations. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
our class is literally us just like playing, like,
Yeah, running around
yeah,
doing
as
hide and seek
adults.
for half the yeah. And then being like, okay, guys, how did that feel?
Yeah.
No, one of the best tweets I've ever tweeted was mechanical engineers be like, what'd you get on the test? Theater majors be like, and how did that feel? It's so fucking true.
Literally.
Anywho.
Literally.
Well,
But yeah, I think
that
that brings us to the end of our
yeah.
little show here today.
Mm-hmm.
But Becker, where can people keep up with you if they are so
Well,
inclined after the show?
thanks for asking. Well, they can always follow me on Instagram at Becca Hobart,
Mhm.
Twitter, Bex Gloss, Spotify, Bex Gloss, and TikTok,
Mhm.
where y'all going during World War III. They can also find me screaming at the top of my lungs in a field. I gotta find a nice field where I am and go screaming it.
Yeah.
And then Quinn, where can the people keep up with you individually if they're so inclined?
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Quinn P. Murphy. And you can also follow me on Twitter at Quinn P. Murphy _. And you can find me trying to suppress the urge to go through a metacognitive process.
Ugh. I'll take 2.
Metacognition out right now.
Doof.
Doof, doof,
Yeah.
doof.
You're telling me. You're telling me.
And Becca, where can people keep up with the show if they are so inclined?
Well, they can follow at Manic Pixie Jump Scare on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, where we post the podcast at length. They can also email in at manicpixiejumpscare@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most important emails alive right
of all
now.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, because we see every single one
Uh-huh.
of the emails we receive. And so
Yes.
that makes
We talk
each
about them.
email. Yep. On air. Guys, you could have your name said by one of us. Isn't that
Yeah.
important to you?
Yeah, literally.
If you just sent us your name, we could use that.
Literally.
We could just say
Literally,
that.
love.
Yeah, so think about it. We're Quinn.
Ooh.
And we're
Uh, uh, ooh. What an episode.
Ker-plunk.
Ker-plunk. Manic Pixie Jump Scare is hosted by Quinn Murphy
And Becca Hobart. Executive produced by Quinn Murphy and Becca Hobart.
Sound and video editing by Quinn Murphy.
Social media management and highlights by Becca Hobart.
And our theme song was written by Quinn Murphy, Becca Hobart, and Nandita Mahesh.